You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. Tonight's account comes from a man who spent years chasing shadows through the Cascades, and then one night under a full moon found himself staring at something that changed his entire paradigm. What he saw is unlike nothing that you've heard on the show so far. This is the story of Robert Evans, Bigfoot researcher and drone enthusiast. So stay with us. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to Robert Evans today. Robert is an individual who has decades of Bigfooting experience in the Pacific Northwest. He's currently down there in Costa Rica, but I was able to connect with him to really get some interesting things he's had happen over the years. We'll be talking about that and maybe also a little bit of information about what it was like to be involved with the last episode of Finding Bigfoot. So welcome to the show, Robert. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Having a great day. It's not too bad out here in the Midwest of the U.S., so always fun to talk to people about their experiences over the years. But, you know, Robert, it sounds like we have a lot of really interesting things to talk about. So I think for this one, do you mind sharing what it was that first brought you into the field of Bigfoot to begin with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a potential sighting. I'll tell you, I've only had one definitive sighting, which we'll get into later, but I had a potential sighting when I was 17 that piqued my interest and got me into Bigfooting, got me hooked, you know. I even had an experience before that I didn't think was Bigfoot until later when I learned more about it. And I can go back and tell you about that as well. But I'll tell you first about when I was 17. So at the time I was living and going to high school in Boca Raton, Florida. And like in ninth grade, we had a summer class, a bushcraft class with Shaman Rick Shawnee taught us, you know, how to make shelters, how to build fires and all that good stuff. And so my friends and I, after that, when I turned 16 and got my driver's license, we would head through Georgia to the mountains to go camping. We would go like all the time. Sometimes we'd leave right after school on Friday and go spend, you know, Friday night out there, drive 6 or 7 hours, whatever it was. And we had rules. We didn't think of Bigfoot at all at the time, but we had rules. No electronics, no flashlights, we wanted to be, you know, with nature as much as we could. And that was great because we got to see like a wild fox and like, it was awesome nature-wise, you know, getting out there and we're in, I think it was Chattahoochee is the area in Georgia where the mountains start to come. And on this one trip, we were hiking along a river. And after 2 days of hiking, we first found an area that was kind of weird. It had, first we thought it was trash. And I was with two friends, Chris and Robbie, and they were the super nerds. The three of us were like top of our class, advanced calculus and physics and all that good stuff. Anyway, we found this clearing, and at first we thought it was trash, and then we looked and it was really weird. It was like a candy wrapper that was perfectly folded and set down, and then something else right next to it. And then there was, I remember, a single blue toddler shoe that was just sitting there. And when we saw that stuff, we were like, okay, let's leave it. Like maybe there's a psycho in the woods. It was like collecting stuff and leaving it. So we left all that stuff and we went a little bit further and we set up our camp. In the morning, I got up right before dawn to go to the bathroom, and I went behind our shelter. We made our own shelters, like just with a tarp, but also like trees that they cut and bent and everything. It was awesome. Anyway, I was going to go to the bathroom, and I went up this little hill behind us, and I saw something peering out of the right side of this tree. And it was smaller than me. And to this day, I'm not sure if it was a bear or I think it might have been a juvenile squatch because of what happened later. So I charged at it to scare it, because if it's a bear and you're that close, you're supposed to try and scare them off. So that's what I did. I charged up the hill and I ducked behind the tree as I was charging at it. And then I got up to the tree and I looked behind it and there's nothing there. And the other side of the hill was kind of a little bit lit from the dawn at this point. I expected to see whatever it was going down the other side of the hill, but I didn't see anything and I didn't hear anything. Then when it dawned on me, whatever it is, it's in the tree right above me. I didn't even look up. I just folded and went right back to our shelter. And then when I got back, Ravi, the Indian kid, was coming from the other direction and he looked kind of spooked. And we both said to each other, let's just pack it up and get out of here. And Chris didn't like that because we were supposed to stay a few more days. But we packed it up. We hiked like a death march all day until nighttime to get back to the car. And then we checked into a nearby motel, stinky three of us. And then in the morning on the drive back to Florida, Robbie says to us, guys, I got to tell you something. The other morning, I was going to go to the bathroom, and across the creek from me, I saw like a huge 7-foot hairy thing in it. And I hadn't even told him what I saw. So, for hours, we're like, oh, was it a guy in a ghillie suit? Was it this? Was it? No. It was a Bigfoot. And so that's what sparked the interest for me. I think I caught a glimpse of a juvenile and he saw an adult male at the same time. And that's what got me into Bigfooting from that point on.
Nice.
And when I got hired by Microsoft in 2000, I was so excited to go squatching in the Pacific Northwest. And I got out there as often as I could. I even went so far as, with two friends of mine, we rented a seaplane to take us high into the Cascades, landed in an area inaccessible by trail on a floatplane. And for 2 weeks, we did roughing it camping up there in the Cascades. Not a single tree knock, not a single howl or anything. Unfortunately, no luck. But man, I was trying. And every chance I got, I'd go out camping and just walk in the trails at night. I'd get up before dawn and go out on the trails. And I didn't have much luck for 12 years. I didn't have any luck, even though I tried a lot. And I think what turned it around for me was around 2011. I contacted BFRO and I said, hey guys, I was working at Microsoft at this point, and I said, I'll build your BFRO Windows app. And they're like, sure. And so I started building their app, and I got direct access to what's called Flats, is the BFRO backend. So I could see reports when they came in before they were made public. At the same time, through Microsoft, I was doing a ton of work in Vancouver, Canada. And there was a large group of developers that I was working with there, and we were working on the Windows 8 and 8.1. And so I was going back and forth between Seattle and Vancouver, Canada every week. And then I said to my manager, this is horrible because I'm basically driving on Saturday, or on Friday. 2 days are wasted because of the driving. And I said, I want to have 3-day weeks. And he said, yes. So for 2 years, I got to basically work 3 days a week and enjoy the beautiful drive up to Vancouver, Canada, and squatch on the way up and squatch on the way back for 2 years, hitting all the hot spots between Seattle and Vancouver, Canada. That was my deal. It was one of the happiest times of my life. That would be awesome.
Wow, that is fantastic. And as we were talking before the show started, I used to be a tech guy myself. I used to also be a software engineer. It wasn't really my deal, but that's beside the point. But I think there are some guys listening that are tech guys, but also in a Bigfoot, and can learn some lessons from what you just said, is that if you're smart about it, you can integrate the two together and kind of, if you're really good at it, you can also be like, hey, maybe I switch around my schedule a little bit. But also going back to the Georgia thing for a second, do you know approximately the year that happened?
Probably 89, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Back then it was paper maps, and we would just find the closest mountains and rivers and just go like, you're nothing to do with Bigfoot at that point. We thought that it was a made up creature, and if it did exist, it was all in the Pacific Northwest. So to see that in Georgia was mind blowing,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and so this was in the Chattahoochee National Forest or National Forest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious myself about this. How did seeing what Robbie see, did that affect him later on in life, or was he like, hey, it happened, but I don't really want to deal with it?
Well, so as we're driving back to Florida, and the three of us are talking about this for a while, and then Chris, who didn't see it at all, was like, guys, everybody makes fun of us enough. And we all agreed that we're not going to talk about this when we get back. So we kept a lid on him. We didn't, we were the super nerds already, and we decided not to talk about it or tell anybody about it. So, and in my mind, I'm like, I'm not 100% sure. Did I see a bear? I didn't see ears. It was just kind of silhouetted with the backlight a little bit. I didn't see a face. All I saw was like the fur, and it ducked quickly behind the tree. It was smaller than me. So, it was enough to pique my intellectual curiosity and make me want to go out and try and find, if these Bigfoot are real. But up until my sighting in 2012, I was still kind of on the fence about it. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, no, they're real.
Absolutely. So, and then fast forwarding to the Pacific Northwest, you're able to have, you're able to do all this squatching. And did you have any interesting experiences that stood out in your memory when you think of that time, being able to spend so much research in the field?
Yeah. So, like I said, I had a lot of unsuccessful, meaning no tree knocks, no eye shine, no nothing for many years. And then I got access to the back end of BFRO. And one time there was a sighting in I believe it was in Walla Walla, if I remember right. And I immediately was like, I was already heading back from Vancouver anyway. And I went straight there like the next day after the report was made. And it was nighttime, and it wasn't that late, maybe like 10 o'clock at night. And I was hiking into that area where the report was. And I remember there was a clear-cut, like forest clear-cut area. And I was crossing that, planning to go up this mountain right where the sighting had been. And then I heard a whistle on the right side of the clearing, but in the woods a little bit, a whistle and then a clap, a single clap. And then right in between those two, further up on the mountain, I heard a roar that was like a combination of a bear and an elephant or something, or like a lion roar. It was the deepest, I can't reproduce it. And it scared the heck out of me. I was like, what am I doing out here alone in the woods with whatever made that sound? But that was the first. And I had my recorder on me and going, but it was in the pocket of my big jacket. It was cold, and I didn't get any good audio off of that. But that was the first potential Bigfoot experience that I'd had after all these years of doing stuff. So I'm like, on to something with using DFR data to find the better spots to go. That was a breakthrough moment for me. And I turned around. I couldn't keep going. I turned around and went back to my tent and spent the night in my tent that night. But then, scouting areas where the reports were in between Seattle and Vancouver, Canada, and exploring a lot of spots. And then I found an area in the South Twin Mount Baker South Twin area, and I'll describe it for you. There was a hill on both sides, kind of imagine a valley, and there's a lake, and there's kind of a floodplain, and no, very few upright trees in this floodplain. It's mostly large trees that have been washed out by the water. And then I got waders on and I went down into the creeks, and it's like a labyrinth. Imagine a massive labyrinth area where the walls of the water has worn down the walls, and they're like 5 foot tall. And you can walk down in there without being seen. And it's this massive labyrinth area. And so I started exploring in there. You wouldn't think of it for Bigfoot, but I'm like, this is perfect for them because they can eat whatever critters or, things are in the creek, and they can remain unseen just by crouching down. And it was really hard to get in there. So it's not like there's going to be people in there. You see what I mean? So I decided this is the spot that I want to make like a long-term observation spot. And I would park my car at a Mini Cooper at the time. I parked that car, and then I start hiking down in there, going towards the lake. And I found this one spot where I could then climb up on the bank, and there was a down log, and I put fruit on it. I put like apples, berries, and stuff on the down log, and then I would back up far enough away and then climb up another elevation where I would just sit and watch the log. My thought was maybe I'm going to be lucky enough to see like a hand come up and grab an apple. You know what I mean? That was my thought. And so I started doing that, and I bought fruit and vegetables, and I would stop there. It was near a salmon hatchery. If you're trying to find it on the map, it's like Mount Baker, South Twin area. It's near a salmon hatchery. On the paper maps, it was near a forest called Monkey Tree Forest. When I look on Google Maps, I can't find that forest anywhere, so I don't know. But on the paper maps, that's what it was. Anyway, twice a week, I would go on the way up to Vancouver, and I would lay out all the fruit and vegetables. And then I would, on the way back, I would go and check it every time everything was gone, except for the potatoes. Now, that doesn't mean Bigfoot, it could have been any kind of animal down in there that it was getting it. I did this for almost 2 months, like a month and a half, twice a week, leaving the vegetables and fruit and stuff, and then checking it on the way back, and then leaving more fruit and vegetables. I only once ever saw one person, which was freaking terrifying. I'm out there hiking in the labyrinth, splashing down the river. I hear splashing footsteps. It was not dark yet. It was, just twilight in the afternoon. And around the corner comes a hunter with a deer on his shoulders. Like he killed a deer back in there. He had scared the heck out of me. After about a month and a half of this, it was October 2012. It was a full moon or near a full moon. As soon as I started on the trail, I immediately heard a splash in like a big rock was thrown in a little creek, not in the creek that I was in, but in the one like right next to me. Splash, and a single sounded like a hand clap. It wasn't a wood knot. I'm like, okay, they're here. So I got my GoPro camera out of my pocket, and I turned it on. And I'm holding my GoPro with one hand, and I'm holding the plastic bag with my fruit and vegetables in the other, and I'm splashing down and going towards my spot. And then I climbed up on the observation point where I usually sit. I would sit for like an hour or two. I used to do meditation a lot, and I don't mind sitting in quiet for a long time. And listening to the sounds of nature. That's real joy of squatching. It's not even about if you see anything. It's like enjoying the woods and nature and the sounds. Anyway, so I get up on the observation point, and I start looking around, and you could see perfectly clearly. It was almost a full moon. Like you could see everything like really well. And, and I look and I'm like, wait a minute, there was not a tree stump right there. Yeah. I know this not really well at this point in time. I've been here twice a week for a month and a half. There's not a tree stump right there. And as I'm looking at it, it turned to the right as I'm facing it, to its left. And on all fours, it booked it to the right. And it was not that far away from me. I don't know exactly how far, but it was close enough where I could see it clearly. And it was at my eye level on all fours. It never stood up, all fours. And then it leapt. It extended its arms and legs and leapt over a down tree, and it was gone. Whole sighting lasted, maybe 3 seconds. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, done. But I got a really good look at it. And it was not the body proportions of Patty like I would expect it to be. Its head was very shrunken into its shoulder. It was at least 7 foot, maybe over 7 foot tall. Its arms were extremely long. Like if you were to pick an NBA basketball player and put like arm extensions on it, that was kind of the body size. But its head was so shrunken into the shoulders. Shoulders were very wide. It looked. I mean, my first thought when I saw it was like, where's his head? Like, because the head looked in profile in dark looked so tiny because it was so shrunken into its shoulders. I'm not expressing this very well, but I'm trying to describe it. The chest, the shoulders were broad, but it didn't have like a wide chest cavity like a deer would or like that. It was kind of skinny and lanky, long, like skinny, lanky arms and legs, like an NBA basketball player, but with lighter shoulders and with her head kind of shrunken in. And full moon, I mean, I could see every blade of grass. I could see everything very clearly. And it leapt. It got good airtime as arms and legs extended, sailed over the down log and done. And while this was happening, I had my GoPro camera out, aimed right at it. I booked it back to the car. I tried to get my laptop going so I could look at the footage. And that wasn't working. So I decided to make the drive the rest of the way to Vancouver and check into the hotel, which I did. And then as I'm getting my my GoPro plugged in and my laptop set up and I'm starting to play it, I called my mother. I was so excited. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, past 1 o'clock in the morning, I called my mother, woke her up, and I'm like, I did it. I finally got one on camera. And I woke her up. And then I play it back, nothing. Like it was too dark. It was not enough light for that old GoPro camera. And I'm still crushed to this day. And not enough light to do anything. I tried editing it in software to bring up the con. Nothing would come out. Because I would have had phenomenal footage. Even if I had a therm, I would have had the best footage. Like it was awesome. And yeah, I actually called in sick that day and on hardly any sleep because I was so excited. I drove all the way back to Seattle. I got my Phantom, the early drone. I went back to that spot. I tried droning and looking around like, is there any chance they're bedded down during the day inside the labyrinth somewhere, but no luck with that. I have not been back squatching to that spot yet. Because I want to bring my thermal drones and I want to have more there. I would like Matt wants to go with me and I want to have multiple thermal drones. And like this time when I go back, I determined when I go back, I'm going to be so ready to catch it again. I'm not going to fail. Like that's where I'm coming from. Everything is practice up until I can get back there and do it right. Yeah.
That is absolutely incredible. My goodness. Yeah, definitely if a few questions for you. So at that point when you're viewing it, did you notice any eye glow or eye shine or anything like that?
No, I didn't see any eye shine. And with its head so shrunken into its body, I think I was seeing just like the top part of the conical part of its head. It looked like a headless person almost, like with a little lump. It was not at all like I expected to see. And I don't know how it can see where it's going. A few other things, it's burned into my memory. Its back looked like it was keeping steady, like you could have a glass of water on its back. You would expect its back to be going up and down as it was cruising along on all fours. No, it was like so smooth like butter, and on all fours. Like I said, never stood up. It went from a prairie dog crouch. That's what I thought was a tree stump. It was crouching like a prairie dog and just looking at me. And I thought that was a tree stump. And then it on all fours, bloop, 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 like moving its legs and arms. I could see it really well. Not a huge belly, not a huge chest, like, like an ungulate. It didn't have that chest plate, that it was definitely not a bear. It was and then it extended its arms and legs and freaking leaped so far.
So that's really interesting. You bring up how smooth it was, because that is a pattern that keeps on coming up. Definitely in this show, is that people will say when it moves, it's like it's gliding, and to hear it, you say that so it's moving on all fours, but it still had that smoothness to it, right?
Yeah, like a greyhound. The way it was moving its arms and legs like a greyhound, but it was incredibly smooth. The back just looked like it was going perfectly straight, not up and down as it's moving its arms and legs, which is what you would expect. But no, it was so smooth.
Were you able to see during those few seconds anything, any details regarding like hair length or what the hair looked like? Anything like that?
No, I mean, it all looked black to me. So, under the moonlight, I don't know. It could have been, I don't know what color hair it was. But it was like, I could see enough of the like fuzziness that it had hair. It was definitely covered in hair. Imagine if you had an NBA basketball player, but with broader shoulders and without a head, or with a tiny shrunken head, like in profile, that's what it looked like. And there was enough light. I mean, it was either a full moon or near a full moon. And I could see underneath it. I could see it very, very clearly.
After that time of seeing it, did this, I mean, you may have already had an idea before of what you would classify this creature as. Some people lean more towards human based. Some people lean more towards like undiscovered ape. Did this sighting lean you in any way regarding that, or?
I had a preconceived notion before the sighting of like a patty, body style. And I still think that the patty PG film is real. But I just think they come in different sizes and shapes, just like humans. And this one was way more graceful, way faster. And the head shrunken into the shoulders way more than I expected. So the body shape was different than I had preconceived notions of. I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to say that that's in any way human, because the head. Finding Bigfoot episode, we actually had much better footage that it wasn't shown on the show. After that whole experience, I was, I of course was droning more and more on some of the blogs and stuff where I was talking about that. I was working on that. Matt Moneymaker contacted me, and he and I started chatting, and I showed him our drone and what we're doing. And Matt contacted me and was like, "Hey, want to be on Finding Bigfoot?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." And so we took the drone, and they did a new episode, Finding Bigfoot: The Search Continues, and that was so much fun. And I had a buddy of mine, Adam, and then he took off, and immediately something went wrong with the drone. And he's like, just above the trees, through like a small hole in the trees, and the controller goes off. And this is like a $27,000 drone. It's not cheap, and we're freaking out. And then the the firmware updated on the controller, and he was able to get it back again, and he landed it, and we checked it all out and made sure everything looked good. And then he took off again. And so it was right after that dramatic moment that he took off. Now, Cliff and his team were down south a little bit. Matt and his team were up north a little bit, and we're flying and droning. We saw both of them through the therm perfectly well. And all of a sudden, we see a hot spot right in between the two of them. And as we're looking at it and zoomed in with the camera, it got up and it ran across like the trail, and it was like twice as big as Cliff. It was huge. And right after it ran across the trail, it hunkered down again. And that's when I looked at the screen. I'm monitoring it on my laptop, so I can see everything that's coming through the drone on my laptop, and it's running through my AI software. And I realized, Adam, you're not recording. Their normal routine is to turn on recording as soon as you take off, as you're taking off. But because he was flustered by what had just happened with the drone, he forgot to start recording as soon as he took off. And so I'm like, you'll see in the TV show that part where Bovo goes, it's walking. Like that part, that's real. That's when we spotted it. All right. And then I'm like, okay. Cause I've got recording on my laptop as well that is recording each frame as it comes in. So I'm like, okay, we're still good. And then he brought it back. We had to swap out batteries anyway. He brought it back, swap out batteries. And then I shut down my laptop. And it was recording, but it was really delayed because it was eating up memory as it's recording every frame. And so when I shut down my laptop, as we took a little short break, I cut off the recording there too. So we had triple redundant backup. We had the drone itself recording, that failed because you didn't hit the record button. The controller has a backup recording, that failed because he wasn't recording. And my laptop failed because I shut the lid on. So the best footage you never see in the show. You see like a screenshot from one of the camera guys behind our shoulder that like saw part of it. But unfortunately, the really like winter footage, you just don't have it. That was frustrating. Yeah.
I remember watching that, and it is one of the best examples of the curse of Bigfoot. I believe that in recent times, like it's wild how many different things had to get messed up for that footage not to be captured. So I can feel like I feel you, man. Like that had to been really rough to live through.
Yeah, that was harsh. But anyway, yeah, it was huge. Now we had a guy go out the next day and look exactly where it was because, like, in that area we then found there's downed logs, and he was going underneath the logs in this like complex web of down logs. So that's why we weren't seeing him while he was getting fainter and fainter. He was hiding underneath stuff. They're smart. He heard the noise probably of the drone above or something. It was finding cover underneath logs.
Wow. Yeah, that would be fascinating to see if you're able to access that still.
Yeah, I still have all the raw footage, bits and pieces of stuff, but nothing like when it ran across that trail, and it was huge. Like, and you have, because we had it in comparison to like Cliff and his team, so you could see the size difference as well in the really good footage. But anyway, so yeah, so there was that. We kind of, I've since been on several expeditions with Matt and with, like BFR expeditions. We had one in Ohio where I really think we kind of perfected the art of drones and watching. I can tell you briefly about that if you're interested.
I would love to hear that. That might be very helpful for listeners to know that are trying to get into drone usage when it comes to Bigfoot.
Yeah, this is really good if you have a small group of people like that want to go out drone squatching. For a while, I had a website, Drone Squatchers, but I haven't had time to maintain that. So what we did in Ohio was first of all, I subscribed to a service called Drone Sense. And it's the same service used by law enforcement and rescue, like search and rescue. And it provides software that tracks all of your drone's locations. But what was really cool is you can also use it on the ground. Your phone connects to it. And so we had our central station where we could see on a map where the drones were and where the ground search team was. And then we had the ground team put their FLIRs up to the phone camera, and you could see through you could see the FLIR, and all of this was coordinated and mapped. So we had, and then we had like a live audience. I don't know how many people were watching all this while we were doing it, but it was pretty awesome because we saw a hot spot, something large and hot with the drone, but it was in the foliage and we couldn't get to it. But we were able to direct ground team to go with their FLIRs, and the footage was awesome. They're crunching through the forest, and you can see through the FLIR, and then it's a deer, But the suspense was killing everybody. But so that software, when used right, like it's great. You multiple drones, you can see where they're at, you can coordinate all the activity, and it was really cool.
That is fascinating. Let's say there's individuals that are trying to get into, like, I want to have a drone for Bigfoot research. Do you recommend a certain size or model they would start with? I know these things can get super, super expensive.
Yeah. I've got two drones that are my go-to, but my buddy just recently got there's like an American company that's making a copy of the DJI but the evidently it's like almost identical, and he swears by it. But I'm still a DJI guy. I like the DJI. If a DJI Mini is my day drone. And then I've got the DJI, I'm trying to remember the name. It's it's a thermal drone. You don't want to go for the lower resolution. You want to go for like 520. I think that's the highest. I'm trying to remember the spec. But you need the higher resolution drone. And they're not that big now. It was still like around $5,000. It's pretty pricey. I would say if you're just getting started, just get a mini and do day droning with that. It's such a great app. Such a fun drone to fly around, and it's small and it has high resolution. There's a newer one out that has a pretty good night camera on it as well, like like color, but low light, and you're able to film with that. There's next on my list, trying to remember the name of it. There's a new larger camera that has both low light camera as well as the thermal camera, but it's only mounted on the larger Matrice drones, like we have. Can't remember TN something, but that camera they did it for search and rescue, because what they're finding is that you can see the hotspots on the therm, but you can't always identify what it is. So combining that with a low light camera, the search and rescue is able to identify what it is. That's next on my list to get camera wise. Like for example, we did an expedition in California, up in the mountains in the Sierras with Matt. And the problem there was there's rocks everywhere, and the hot rocks absorb the sun during the day, and at night, they're just hot spots littered everywhere. And for example, when I was on that expedition, there was a ram or some kind of ungulate. It looked like a ram. I'm not sure, or it might have been a stag or something. It had big horns. And that animal was less bright in the therm than the boulders around it. And I think because they conserve the heat, I'm not sure it's structured the same way, but it makes sense for an animal that's out in the cold to have whatever layers of fur to be able to conserve their heat. So the assumption that they're going to glow bright like a human might be completely, wrong in some situations. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely does. I know thermal drones are definitely becoming more and more popular, but they are very expensive. I'd be curious to see if those ever start dropping down in price and then more usable by the, yeah, I guess you could say, everyday squatcher. Not everyone has, $5-6 grand to drop on a drone.
Couple of recommendations on that. So, number one, do not waste your money on anything below the 520 resolution, like the 320 and cheaper ones. And the frame rate really matters. Is it 30 or 60? Like, you want a higher frame rate. Instead of going and wasting your money on a lower drone where you're going to see stuff and you're not going to be able to identify it, don't even bother. Instead, find 2 or 3 like-minded people, pull your money, get one higher end drone, and share it. And here's another thing. As soon as you get the drone, sign up for DJI Care. You only have a short period of time after you buy it to sign up for DJI Care. They are awesome. It's not that much money, and they will immediately send you a replacement drone when and if it's more of when you crash your drone, because you will crash it. And they'll immediately send you a replacement, and you send in the damaged drone. Like, they're awesome. But if you don't sign up quick enough, you miss that window to sign up.
That's awesome. You're down in Costa Rica now. Are there any plans maybe in the future to go back on Bigfoot expeditions, or you kind of moved past that now?
Never. I'll never move past it.
Right. Exactly.
Mortgage. No, I don't think there's any muffin quarry or anything in my neighborhood in Costa Rica now, but I'll definitely go back. My son and I love camping and squatching with Matt. So at some point, maybe even over the Christmas break, I want to go back squatching in my old stomping grounds in Seattle area. Maybe I'll go back to that hot spot and bring my thermal drone as long as I've got a few other people and give it a serious effort this time. Yeah, that'll be awesome.
That would be fascinating. I just want to say thank you for spending some time talking about what you've experienced. If you are able to go back to that place, was it Monkey Tree Forest area? I would love to hear about it. Definitely, feel free to reach out with any updates you have.
Mount Baker, South Twin. Yeah, Mount Baker, South Twin area. If anybody's trying to find it, look for a salmon hatchery, and it's right in that neighborhood.
Boom, there you go. And is that on public land as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
There's a campground near there. I can't remember, but I usually didn't camp at the campground. If you get there's a forest pass, I think what it was called, where you can just park along the side of the road and go camping. It's awesome up there. Yeah. Thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me blab on for whatever, a couple of hours. And this was fun.
Awesome. Well, great talking to you, man. And have a great rest of your day down there in Costa Rica, dude.
All right. Thanks, Fen. Have a good day. Pura vida.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. Robert's story is one that's incredible, not only for the sighting itself, but also for the knowledge that he was able to share about drone usage when it comes to looking for Sasquatch. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next episode, and share this one with a friend who's in the Bigfoot, the Pacific Northwest, or a mystery that refuses to be solved. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you're following the show there. And if you leave us a 5-star positive review, it really helps others find us. And if you or someone you know has had a Bigfoot encounter, especially in the Mount Baker area or anywhere across the Pacific Northwest or the world for that matter, I'd love to hear from you. So please email me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. We've got a brand new membership community for Bigfoot Society. So if you want to go deeper, check that out over at www.bigfootsocietypodcast.com and click on the members login area. That's where you're able to listen to episodes early and ad-free and members only episodes weekly. It's also a place where you can connect to other individuals that are as deep into the Bigfoot subject as you are. So we hope to see you there soon. And thanks again for following along with us at the Bigfoot Society podcast. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and never stop asking what else might be out there. And see you in the woods.